Acquiring Talent Dungeon, Chapter 48, Day 12, 9th floor, Egg. This jackpot. We seem to have found it. The current location was the research center. It was a personal work and office space for the senior researchers of this facility, the druids. I look forward to seeing what it looks like. Leader, Nim. Yon Shan, his right-hand man. Changaram said it in an excited voice. They found the clue much faster than expected. Instead of expressing joy, Yon Shan-He read the parchment once more. He wasn't specifically pleased, he just wanted to confirm the existence of an item. Check to see if any additional people have joined. Yes! Yon Shan-He looked at a map for the facility on one side of the laboratory. Manual curation was his forte. His followers weren't just trained in the dungeon. But also in reality. It was thanks to that training that he was able to grasp this floor easily. In a situation where the field of view was limited, the first thing to do was use the luminous stick to display their location. In this way, those who followed Yon Shan-He could easily meet up again. The teamwork enabled them to avoid the gorillas, overthrow other explorers, and join up with Yon Shan-He's team. With the people who joined Yon Shan-He, he was able to grasp most of the stairs for a few hours. There seems to be no one strong, including kings, on the 9th floor. At best, there were those who alternated between using the ticket and running towards the stairs on the 7th and 8th floors. As more subordinates joined and reported the place where they started, Yon Shan-He was able to grasp half of the dungeon. There were no other large forces apart from this group. As more subordinates joined and replaced. This conclusion led him to a slow, stable search instead of drastic exploration. The result was the item in his hand. It contained the word that the researcher of the facility was pursuing. It was a report on the finished product. There seems to be no additional member, Changaram said as he returned to the laboratory. It has been quite a long time. Something must have happened to the 6 people. Yang Yonmi, Li Tai-hun, Kwak Chang-sung, Leom Chang-yin. Oh, Yin So. Their dead body hadn't been found yet. Maybe they were in the part of the man that Yon Hanji hadn't explored yet. It was the passage leading to the hatchery and 3rd feeding room in the west. Even so, do you think there is something more risky in the core of this facility? Certainly, the monsters of these floors are different from the previous one. Changaram glanced at his left arm and was still covering. Glanced at his left arm that was still recovering. If it was for the potions, then his arm wouldn't be healing after a one-on-one fight against a gorilla near the starting point. He was someone who trained to fight against 4 people, so he was able to suppress one gorilla. Of course, that hadn't happened when Yon Shan-He wasn't around. In addition, Leader Nim wasn't with them. Yon Shan-He had met 3 subordinates immediately near the start. They were subordinates who didn't excel in combat. He used them to hunt an equal number of gorillas. We're ready to, so we'll go when you give the word. Do it. Changaram left and Yon Shan-He looked at the map again. Changaram's hypothesis made sense. The hatching facility were at the core of this facility. Something there might have killed the 6 people. But would such a carrier be set as a starting point for explorer? That wasn't the dungeon that he knew. If he didn't have the key, then he couldn't hatch it. and he wouldn't have received the clue if he started there. Let's go. Yes, the 19 people in this group moved in unison at his instruction. They followed Yun Shan-hee's instruction with no complaint or hesitation. They appeared. 11 o'clock. A group of 5 gorillas appeared them, attacked them in the central hall. These subordinates carried out the task assigned to them with amazing organizational power. Unique talent. Number 55, management. It was the ability to detect the ability of others as well as situations where those abilities could be used properly. Dramatically improving the talent of and ability of those in his group, Yuan Shanhei didn't care about the battle. It was a policy that he created himself. He knew there would be no losses as long as they followed his order correctly. He just stared down at the parchment at his subordinate as his subordinate got a formation. It was the journal of the senior researcher who owns managed this place. The sowing stage has no difficulty lowering intelligence and forming obedience to humans has succeeded. It seemed like the desire to tame and the sacred beast will come true. An unexpected problem occurred. Even though digestive organs were formed, its nutrition is done solely through an energy transfer from the divinity. All other nutritional supplements have failed. All specimens have died of starvation. A Malon priest came up with the idea that if he directly supplies the energy that is the basis of divine power, not actually divine power, human desire. Number 115 has showed improvement. A parasitic object in the host have been created. There is just one problem. Only one person can be a host. With the desire of just one individual as a driving force, it will be difficult to extract the full performance of the sacred creature. At best, it will just be a common beast. It seems necessary to improve it even further. The improvement of number 175 has failed. There has been no progress in the last 15 attempts. The sacred creature doesn't follow any instruction except for those that come from the one who has become the host. It is impossible to even control who will become the host. The larvae instinctively detect the best host around it. Once the host has been chosen, the parasite will begin synchronization and will take a form that reflects the host. The plant is terminated. All of this was an impossible experiment. Fortunately, the Emperor seemed interested. He thinks of it as a special pet. I've decided to prepare one fertilized egg as a present. If I am lucky, then I may be able to regroup my budget. I will prepare one with the best traits. The journal ended here. The eggs in the incubation room was probably the sacred creature. His personality was on the type to go crazy over something like this. But this time, Yuan Shanhee's heart beat a little faster. It was for a practical reason rather than emotional. It was a sacred creature for someone called the Emperor, so he could see the advantage of becoming the master of creature like that. The suppression has been completed. There are no injuries. Yuan Shanhei nodded as he heard Changram's report. The gorilla had already disappeared from in the interest. He wanted to get his hand on the sacred creature. At this moment, it was the only thing that attracted his attention. And I knew what gorilla weren't seen here. It was cold, really ducking cold. Current balance, 722 on 741. A cold state. Health will be reduced by 3 points per second. Current balance, 719 on 741. A cold state. Health will be reduced by 3 points per second. Disable. After getting rid of the pattern in my hand, the cold state disappeared. Due to the penalty of the inscribed pattern, I was recurred to the cold when it was activated. Apart from that, I was also had the cold penalty from the salamander and lizardman essence. My body was weak to the cold, but the place itself was some type of frozen storehouse. Display cabinet filled the space. Beyond the frosted and translucent glass, eggs of various size and shape were frozen. Sometimes instead of the eggs there was green liquid with a fetal flake form floating around. Every time we looked at one, an explanation of the creature popped up. Perhaps it would be a whole 2 days to see all of them in here. Maybe this was the reward of the stairs. Just like the cassava in the forest, some of the frozen creatures could be used as livestock or resources in my city. I looked at the floor in the ceiling. There were pipes stretching from the cabinet and along the walls. The longer I followed it, the warmer it became. As I entered the stairs at the end of the incubation room, it was so warm that I didn't need a hot pack. Instead of a wall of shelves, it contained something else. The pipes were gathering towards a device. It was a rectangular device, similar to Talia's regenerator. The letters on the device said it was a machine that used geothermal heat. I moved away from the generator and stopped it in front of a device that reached my waist. It looked like the World Cup trophy, the space that pedestal that supported a sphere. The sphere was the size of a soccer ball, and it seemed like it was made out of amber. There was something inside, the fuel. Dungan! It sounded like a big drum was swinging through the space. I stepped back. I could clearly feel it. I felt the vibration on my skin. The ringing sound came from that little ball. 3 squares egg type pending rank unknown. The egg of a artificially synthesized beast. It was an object to be presented in the Emperor of the Bondi Empire, but ultimately didn't mean its scheduled master. It still doesn't have a form or any abilities. In order to break out of the shell, it is necessary to remove the pressure that is maintaining the surface of the egg. The surface of the egg drank unceasingly while I was reading the word. A dim shape seemed to be swimming inside it. Dwong. Hey, wait a minute. It feels like the egg will crack at any moment, but the surface seems fine. The pedestal of this egg was connected to the generator through a pipe. On one side of the generator was a control panel with levels and buttons. I focused on deciphering the structure. There was no liquid crystal, but there were stones piled up on one side of like an abacus. Perhaps the incubation room was basically in a cold state. There was the word heat next to the numbers, so it seems like the generator could be used to get rid of the cold. Right now, almost all of that heat energy was concentrated on the egg. I got a sense of the operation but trying to move the levers. Key. Master Dread's master key is required. I immediately imagined the office area that I saw on the map on the facility. Get the key from there. Operate the generator here is to awaken the egg. This will power up the rest of the facility. An image of the 9th floor was immediately drawn. Unfortunately, I couldn't leisurely take the time to do this process. Chobok. Footsteps were heard from far away. It wasn't just one. There were at least 10 of those guys. Apart from the very first woman I killed, I encountered a total of 6 people who brought lanterns. After killing and checking their belongings, they had the same configuration of item as the woman. Even though they moved across a fairly large area, 6 of the 7 people I encountered were all under the same leader. The meaning was clear. That leader will be the only obstacle on this floor. It was likely he had gathered all his companions together and come here. This meant he also found some clues. The rule was simple: attack and defend. Those people had found the key and were searching for answers here. I had to stop them. Here, a person's voice was heard. I had memorized the location of the nearest staircase just in case of an emergency, so I immediately acted. Darkness cloud, activate. What is it? I did infer the number of footsteps and boldly ran forward. If they didn't have an item similar to my pendant of magnification, then they could see me when I was within 1 meter. In other words, if I was attacked with Darkness Cloud activated, then they wouldn't be able to see me. I could see the people at the front of the edge of my vision. I activated the pattern of my hand, causing the cold air to hurt my skin. I raised my palm and caused a long-range explosion. Ack! The first one was down. I was confident after receiving a small amount of experience. The same was true of the colleagues that I hadn't already killed, but these people didn't have good specs. The experience I received wasn't properly distributed and was basically trash. I aimed another explosion at them. Within seconds, a second person was screaming. Deadly attacks coming from darkness would deal a mental blow. This alone could cause their morale to fall significantly. They weren't trained soldiers, so it was a natural response for a human. But 5 o'clock later, I heard a loud voice on the side of my field of view, and at that moment, PAT! The reaction could be described as almost simultaneous. All the lantern light aimed for this side and completely moved the darkness. The dozen or so light didn't overlap at all. It took away all the darkness around me. Of course, the lantern couldn't leave the darkness cloud, but there is a strange lump. A black chunk in the bright space could definitely be the most obvious target. See, flare. The voice was heard again. Some of the lantern light diminished, then several flares burst in unison from different directions. Soon, almost all of the lanterns were turned off, but half of the cooling down room was lit by the red light and the red flares. I lifted Darkness Cloud and looked at the owner of the voice, who had given brief instruction. At that moment, I could finally see him well. Kim Hee-chul. Yon Shan-hee. I reached out. It was a blast that precisely targeted Yon Shan-hee. Dang, but the explosion stopped a little ahead of the target point. A big man stood in front of Yon Shan-hee. Oh! He raised his arm in a X shape and blocked the explosion, letting out a loud groan of pain as he did so, but even though there were burns, the man's arms were fine. Was it a body hardening technique? I had seen something similar on the 6th floor. Was it strong enough to stop my explosion? It wasn't just him. In the meantime, 2 other people had positioned themselves in front of Yon Shan-hee. One was holding a shield, the other one was wearing thin metal armor. Although they had different characteristics, they looked the same action as in unison. Tang! I fired 2 explosions at a test. Although it felt overwhelming, the 2 explosions didn't pierce through. There was also no noticeable reduction of the HP bar above their heads. You said it during the next day. A voice was heard from behind the wall of 3 people. I could be safer to go down the stairs. I can say it again if you want to hear it once more. I responded casually while searching an appropriate answer. I instantly turned to the side and aimed at the people behind the wall, using a maximum output explosion on the wall in front. No, I think you will be the one who listened this time. I made a decision. Number 2. No matter how solid they were, I had even managed to blow a hole through the gorillas. I put forward the one hand and imagined an explosion that was as large as possible. Sharp! A sharp sensation struck my left thigh. Current balance. 432 on 741. Frostbite. Health was decreased by 12 points per second. Frost was stuck to the entire left side of my body. Icicles the size of a child's hand were stuck to my left and right hand side. Jerk! I struck the next icicle coming from the same direction. It was coming from a direction that wasn't brightened by the flares. The direction was from the entrance of the incubator. The flares were in the 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock direction from me, causing a very narrow gap that the light from the flare couldn't reach. I knew this, but I had talked about it, so it meant that part was deliberately darkened. I wasn't the only one who used the technique of having a conversation to buy time and earn attention. I knew this, but I hadn't talked about it. It meant that the part was deliberately darkened. I wasn't the only one who used the technique of having a conversation to buy time and earn attention. I've heard a lot of rumors about you. A man in means 20 walked out of the darkness. He had been walking slightly behind the party from the beginning. Nice to meet you. I am Changaram. The man waved his hand and pieces of ice were created in the air and flew towards me. Was it magic that duel with ice, similar to Yuan-Shiji wind magic? Current balance 362 on 741. Frostbite, health will be reduced by 12 points every round. A ridiculous amount of health was reduced. I need to somehow supplement my health with block sucking. I leaped through the ice and aimed my palm towards the crowd around Yonshan-He. Dang! I took my health was rated by more than half. That health was almost instantly restored. The distance was much wider compared to when I was facing the gorilla. So the damage was smaller, but the person I hit had lower health than the gorillas. As a result, there was damage. Various arrows were fired from behind the shield, and the projectile hit my body. Current balance 309 and 29 on 741. Frostbite, poisoned. He'll be decreased by 17 points per second. Very good. I avoided the barrage of ice and arrow and threw my body behind the nearest shelf. Current balance 262 on 741. Frostbite. Health was decreased by 21 points per second. Once again, a large amount of health was reduced, probably due to my weak cold resistance. However, if I turned out the pattern, that it was good as being unarmed. My fist had less power than the explosion, and I wouldn't even be able to hit anyone. I took out the potion I received from Kim Tae-yoon, but it just changed the 21 decreased health to 0. The amount and type of recovery depended on how much I was drunk. I couldn't help logging properly. This guy acted really properly. I imagined that it would be difficult to deal with an organized group, but to think my first opponent turned out like this, if I wasn't alone then things might be different. Even just one more person could distract the attack from the other side. I wanted to see her. Sujin, really. There was a staircase near the entrance to the hatchery. Yon Shan-he's voice heard from beyond the shield. If you somehow make it down there, then you won't die. There wasn't any sarcasm in his voice. Yet it was clear. It would be so sad to give it a try. Isn't your specialty carrying risks? Did this bastard have bad feelings toward me? I could definitely feel those emotions. It was a declaration of war. I've received order to keep you alive until he gets back from the work. Changaram said as there was the sound of walking. Yon Shan-he was going inside the incubation room. Of course, it wasn't that he didn't care about me. He knew that the explosions from my hands were powerful. He would just maintain the state of confrontation without taking any risk. It was until Yon Shan-he came back from the incubation room. Joke! As the temperature around me fell, frost started to form. It was due to Changaram doing something. Current balance 276 on 741. Frostbite. Poison. Will decrease health by 3 points every second. Damn it. Despite the effect of the medicine, my health was being reduced again. My eyes gradually closed as I became drowsy. Honestly, it is the first time I have seen you myself. Based on the story, you seemed really great. Changaram's voice came closer, but now, not anymore. No matter how good a person is, the hate that you can't fix is climbed. Someday you will meet a rock and will surely break. I don't. If I left this place, then there will be projectile and icicle that will turn me into a beehive. It couldn't be solved using darkness clouds since they would just aim at the darkness. No matter how hard you try, an egg can't break a rock. Changaram continued. I see, I answered in order to try and maintain consciousness. Indeed, but honestly, you already know that. You must have felt like this all along, before briefly living a happy dream inside this dungeon. Current balance 193 on 741. Frostbite, poisoned, will decrease health by 6 points every second. I was becoming cold, my eyes closed. I wasn't sleepy, but I felt like I was. The helplessness I felt before entering the dungeon, the feeling of not being able to do anything further due to the circumstances. Just go back to that life. Close my eyes as the cold. See? What? Ah, you're jerk. I raised my nails to my forehead. I scratched down using all my strength. The half-frozen skin was torn. Now I regained some consciousness. I opened my eyes. I no longer felt sleepy. Come to think of it, that Bellstad was still a bit younger than I am. Yes, people are prideful about age, aren't you? Well, it doesn't matter as long as I can eat you. I knew I didn't have much time. I couldn't see the answer. The only thing I had done was stop myself from falling asleep. So, somehow, in order to win, I moved my feet. It was starving. Originally, I should have emerged from the egg a long time ago. The eggshells was the best environment where it could live almost semi-permanently. The hunger didn't just come from hunger. It wanted to taste the sweetness that I had never experienced before. Dwong, the teeny body shook as it heard sound nearby. How long had it been? There were things to eat nearby. If only there was this eggshell pressing it. It wanted to taste straight away. There were more than a dozen delicious tastes, but there was a special flavor among them. I wanted to eat. It was an instinct even before the ego was formed. And it waited. The shell broke. And the conditions are met. Talent, awareness, unique talent. Number 99. Underdog. End of the chapter 48.